This donghua begins with the spread of an RR virus that mysteriously appears and makes animals mutate into monsters. At that time, mankind was truly on the verge of collapse. But at the same time, humanity is also experiencing adjustments. Some people are born physically stronger than humans in the new generation. They are known as warriors who must protect the world from the invasion of monsters. At that time, being a warrior was a matter of pride and became the dream of almost every human being in the world. There is a man still in school named Luo Feng who already plans to become a warrior later. He also revealed this to his male friend named Weiwen. Becoming a warrior was not easy for an ordinary person like Luo Feng, especially since he was born in a lower-class family. But he was still determined to live up to his ideals. One day, he saw the heroic action of a warrior facing a monster. This made him even more motivated. In everyday life, Luo Feng also has to face pressure from his male friend Zhang Haobai, the son of the richest man in the city. Almost every opportunity, he always tried to get rid of Luo Feng with his cunning way. Zhang Haobai did all that because a woman named Xu Xin, whom he loved, had a crush on Luo Feng. Because of Zhang Haobai's actions, Luo Feng failed to continue his education at a university, making him sad. However, Luo Feng's spirits rose again after he received an offer to take the warrior entrance exam. He got the offer from Zhang, a warrior instructor of the Extreme Martial Hall. The offer was not without reason. Zhang had seen that Luo Feng had the ability and capacity to become a warrior. It turned out that he had been secretly observing Luo Feng's activities all this time. On the agreed day, Zhang picked up Luo Feng to take him to the examination site. On the way, Luo Feng was introduced to a man named Yang Wu, a warrior examiner. Yang Wu gave him information if a warrior joined the Extreme Martial Hall organization, it would be free. They will be given facilities in the form of luxury homes and also high salaries. Hearing this, Luo Feng was even more excited because, with all these facilities, he could raise his family's status. Arriving at the exam venue, Luo Feng and the other participants were led to the simulation room by a man named Wu Tong, the chief instructor of warrior. In the first exam, participants will do a battle simulation to fight monsters in the open. Even though Luo Feng had no experience dealing with monsters, his basic martial skills allowed him to pass the test and get the highest score. Unfortunately, when Luo Feng wanted to give the good news to his family, he instead had to face again with Zhang Haobai, who was acting up again. He tried to accuse Luo Feng's father for absurd reasons. Provoked by emotion, Luo Feng beat him and his 3 bodyguards, and it didn't take long for Luo Feng to defeat them. Unfortunately, Luo Feng didn't realize that it was all part of Zhang Haobai's devious plan, which deliberately wanted to disqualify him from the warrior exam. As a result, the police were forced to hold him in prison for a while. Apparently, Zhang Haobai didn't just stop there. He asked for the help of a man named Zhou, a gangster, to launch his next plan. But Zhou refused because he didn't dare to take the risk after discovering the identity of Luo Feng, a warrior candidate. Not at his wit's end, Zhang Haobai asked his uncle Zhang Zehu for help, who was a member of the high-level warrior team. He said it was easy for him to find someone who could help Zhang Haobai in carrying out his plan. The person they chose was a man named Yan Jingshe, who was a hitman and former warrior. On the other hand, Wu Tong and Zhang naturally felt very worried for Luo Feng. Even though Luo Feng had quite good fighting skills, he was still a beginner who didn't have enough experience. Especially if he had to face a formidable opponent like Yan Jingshe, who was on par with an entry-level warrior. But a man named Master Zhu had a different opinion. He firmly believed that Luo Feng could face Yan Jingshe. According to him, Luo Feng had the potential to become a spiritual master with special powers capable of using the energy of the universe. His own level of strength was twice as high as that of an ordinary warrior of his own level. Master Zhu's belief turned out to be true. Because Luo Feng used his time to train his strength level since he was in prison, he could finally awaken his master's spiritual power upon entering the high-level concentration phase. The next day at lunchtime, Yan Jingshe and his men carried out their plan to kill Luo Feng. It turned out that Luo Feng had already prepared himself for this possibility. As a result, a fight ensued between Luo Feng and Yan Jingshe and his men. Even though he was overwhelmed by his enemies, Luo Feng could defeat them. This incident allowed him to hone his master's spiritual power. After that incident, Luo Feng continued to improve his master's spiritual ability. Now he can control an object remotely according to his wishes. Soon after, he was acquitted of criminal charges after Xu Xin found evidence showing that he was innocent. The news of Luo Feng's release naturally annoyed Zhang Haobai. Moreover, his position was now very threatened. If Luo Feng reported this to the Security Bureau, he would definitely not be able to dodge it anymore, even though he was the son of the richest man in the city. After Luo Feng was freed, Xu Xin returned to meet Luo Feng. At that time, she encouraged and asked him to continue to focus on pursuing his dream. Suddenly her words succeeded in dispelling the doubts in his heart, who was feeling doubtful about his own decision. Long story short, Luo Feng was preparing to take the next exam. Zhang trained him to use his strength to the fullest. Zhang explained some important things he should know about the warrior level, divided into 3 levels: fighter, warlock, and war god. For war god abilities, it has lightning-like speed and combat power capable of destroying a building. Besides that, some great warriors whose level surpassed that of war gods and was estimated to have a combat power equivalent to one big country. Until now, only a few people could reach that level. In other words, their existence was extremely rare. On the same day, surprisingly, Luo Feng received a direct offer from a man named Zhu Ge to join the Extreme Martial Hall. If he agreed to that, Luo Feng would be officially declared a warrior without further trials. Without thinking, he accepted the offer. He seemed happy to know that, so he could bring his family into a more decent life. Even so, Luo Feng still intends to clear the warrior entrance exam, because for him, the test was a way to prove that he was worthy of becoming a warrior. At the same time, Zhang Zehu took advantage of this to get rid of Luo Feng again. Zhang Zehu deliberately released a dangerous monster toward Luo Feng's hunting ground, but his plan failed because Luo Feng was trained enough to deal with monsters even at a crucial moment. Long story short, after being declared to have passed the exam, Luo Feng accessed the information center to look for weapons that matched him. After much deliberation, he chose to use the number 2 strongest weapon in the world. The next day, because there was no other way, Zhang Zehu decided to go to the Extreme Martial Hall headquarters to negotiate with Luo Feng regarding the matter he had done. However, the negotiations did not go according to his expectations, with an annoyed Zhang Zehu determined to take revenge on him. A few days later, Luo Feng got his first assignment. He will carry out an emergency rescue mission to bring home a research team that is reportedly under attack from a group of monsters. There he was introduced to 5 men named Luo Feng, the leader of the Fire Hammer team, and the 4 members named Zhangge, Wei Tie, Wei Qing, and Chenggu. After that, they headed to the rescue location. Arriving at the scene, Luo Feng and his team found evidence that the attack on the researchers was not an accident, and the temporary guess is that the culprit is one of the warrior teams. But at that time, they were still unable to determine the true intentions of these people. And the bad news, Luo Feng received information that Xu Xin was on the list of people they had to save. The search continued until the city's ruins area. Without Luo Feng and his team knowing, they were actually being targeted by the Tiger Tooth team, which was the main culprit of the incident. Luckily, before the Tiger Tooth team could launch an attack, they found Xu Xin, the only survivor. After that, they took her to a hiding place. On the other hand, the Tiger Tooth team was still monitoring the movements of Luo Feng's team from a distance. Moreover, Zhang Zehu didn't want Luo Feng to be out of his sights, even if only for a moment. He was indeed looking for an opportunity to take revenge on Luo Feng because, currently, he had to serve a period of imprisonment after being caught trapping Luo Feng. From the conversation of the Tiger Tooth team, it was revealed that their main goal was to do all that to bring the Fire Hammer team together with a wolf monster of the Silver Moon type, which has a high selling value. They hope their team will advance to attack when Silver Moon is busy fighting with the Fire Hammer team. After a long wait, just as Luo Feng and his team were about to come out of hiding, Tiger Tooth's team showered them with bullets. Unfortunately, in that incident, Zhang Ge lost one hand while trying to protect Luo Feng. At the same time, the Tiger Tooth team also activated the monster summoning device they had installed earlier. Then the monsters started arriving and surrounded Luo Feng's team. In a precarious situation, Luo Feng was forced to use his master's spiritual power to lead his team out of the siege of the monsters. As expected by the Tiger Tooth team, the existence of the Fire Hammer team caught the attention of the Silver Moon Wolf. As a result, Luo Feng was forced to return to fight to face the Silver Moon Wolves alone. Meanwhile, Luo Feng and the others would guard Xu Xin against the Tiger Tooth team's attack. Dealing with the Silver Moon Wolf is certainly not an easy matter, because they are classified as top-level monsters, who have intelligence in fighting. This was proven when almost all of Luo Feng's attacks were successfully broken at the beginning. Even he had fallen because of their attacks. As the battle progressed, Luo Feng realized his strength was much more effective if he only focused his attacks on one point. He also tried to attack them at one point until he managed to kill one of the Silver Moon Wolves. After taking the precious part of the Silver Moon Wolf, Luo Feng and his team left to return to the city. This made the Tiger Tooth team feel very upset. Besides failing to destroy the Fire Hammer team, they also suffered the loss of losing the Silver Moon Wolf's precious part. Upon arriving at the border, Luo Feng's team met Tiger Tooth's team. Suddenly the situation almost sparked a war between the two teams. Soon the military came to give them a warning and intervene. Arriving in the city, the Fire Hammer team held a farewell ceremony with Zhang Ge because, with his current physical condition, he could no longer carry out his duties as a warrior. Luo Feng gave a gift to Luo Feng, which contained a set of flying knives of much better quality than his previous one. At the same time, Luo Feng and Luo Feng's attention was suddenly distracted by a live broadcast showing a male war god named Lu Gong, who was facing a giant rock-type monster. Apparently, Lu Gong was a 9-stage Thunder Sword user. Soon a man named Shu Gong, Shu Xin's older brother, was attracted by Luo Feng's abilities and approached him, but instead, he said that Luo Feng would not be able to reach that level. It turns out that Shu Gong and Shu Xin's nature is very different. He has a personality that is arrogant and likes to look down on others. Hearing that, Luo Feng warned Shu Gong to be more careful in his speech. It could be that the person he underestimates at this time becomes someone he will respect very much in the future. To increase his strength, Luo Feng planned to do the hunting alone. After getting approval and input from his team members, he started his mission. Not just once, it turned out that he was continuously carrying out his missions alone so that his physical strength and control of his 9-stage Thunder Sword were. As a result of this crazy action, his name became a topic of conversation among the warriors and the military, because he almost every day comes home with a very large amount of his prey. Unfortunately, on the 50th day, suddenly, the entire hunting area was attacked by a herd of rat monsters. When Luo Feng was cornered, Lu Gong saved him, who had come to help the warriors out of the area. It was lucky for Luo Feng because he learned how Lu Gong used his 9-stage Thunder Sword's power at that time. But the swarms of rat monsters grew so much that Lu Gong was forced to sacrifice himself to create a huge explosion. After that, Luo Feng felt a deep loss, only triggering his Thunder Sword to rise. On the day of Lu Gong's funeral, many important people came to pay their last respects to him. Master Zhu was also present there to represent the higher-ups of the Extreme Martial Hall. For the first time, Luo Feng could see Master Zhu's face clearly. He was a warrior figure capable of surpassing war god level strength. After that, the Fire Hammer team had a meeting. They will discuss their next plan in dealing with the Tiger Tooth team because they are currently cooperating with the Thunderclap team leader, Liu. In addition, they also agreed that the Fire Hammer team would temporarily replace Lu Gong's position to guard the hunting area 003. Without waiting long, they set off for Area 3, one of the most dangerous areas. Besides facing air and land monsters, the warriors there also have to face sea monsters which are even more dangerous. In Area 3, the Fire Hammer team had time to fight with the warriors from India. Unexpectedly, they had to intersect with the Tiger Tooth team and the Thunderclap team, who were hunting the same monster at that time. There was tension between the two sides because Luo Feng didn't want to just give up in front of his enemy. He wanted to keep what they had worked so hard to get. Luo Feng knows that their weakness lies in a man named Li Wei, the young master of Bolinas, and makes him the object of negotiations. Hearing that, the Tiger Tooth and Thunderclap teams chose to retreat, as their top priority was to keep Li Wei safe. In anticipation of the enemy's movements, Luo Feng decided to undertake the mission alone. He would spy on the Thunderclap and the Tiger Tooth teams while Gao Feng and the others would return to the city. It took Luo Feng days to observe the enemy's movements and routines until he could find the right time to attack. While waiting for that time to come, he used his time to continuously train his master's spiritual ability. Long story short, on the 10th day, he finally had a chance to attack. That day it was Zhang Zehu's turn and a man named Xiao, the sniper of the Tiger Tooth team, to guard the base while the others accompanied Li Wei on the hunt. When they were caught off guard, Luo Feng used his flying knife to immobilize Zhang Zehu and Xiao. After that, Luo Feng left their base and let the two of them be devoured by the monsters. This was done by him to remove his traces so that the Thunderclap team and the Tiger Tooth team thought their deaths were purely from a monster attack. While investigating the place where Zhang Zehu and Xiao died, the two teams were suddenly surprised by the arrival of the monsters. They also realized that their team would not be able to fight the monsters, so they left there and left the team members who had been surrounded by monster troops. The situation had almost cost Liu and the others if the two war gods named Li and Wang had not come to their aid. Luo Feng overheard their conversation and discovered that Wang and Li were on a mission to hunt down a dragon-armored monster. Luo Feng once thought that if he wanted to witness the hunt, he would continue to follow them to learn how a war god fights. Long story short, Li and Wang found the dragon-armored's lair and attacked the monsters guarding there. Then they barged in to come face to face with the dragon-armored monster. Meanwhile, Luo Feng, who continued to observe from a distance, looked amazed by the prowess shown by the two war gods. Even more so, when the two of them fought against that monster, he could learn a lot of knowledge. While the monster was fighting with Wang and Li, he used the opportunity to enter the monster's lair to steal the eggs. As a spiritual master, infiltrating the monster's lair is not difficult, even though the place is heavily guarded by monsters. However, Luo Feng's actions made the dragon-armored furious, so the monster paid no attention to Li and Wang. Instead, the monster focuses on him to retrieve the egg. With all his might, he tried to escape because if caught, he would definitely die. Luckily, with his master's spiritual ability, he found an underground passage impossible for the armored dragon to reach. Unexpectedly, Luo Feng's hiding place brought him together with Li Wei and his bodyguards. As a result, they fought because they did not want to let go of each other. At first, Luo Feng was cornered, but he managed to find their weakness so he could finish them all at once. Knowing Li Wei had died, Li Wei's mother, Venena Belinas, was very angry. She orders to find the killer and announces that they will give a bounty of 100 billion to anyone who manages to uncover the identity of her son's killer. Luo Feng intended to sell dragon-armored eggs to a black market collector to avoid being suspicious of him, because that's the only way to hide it. After agreeing on a meeting time, the collector checked the egg to ensure it was correct. After confirming the original transaction, it was carried out and sold for 5 billion. He was relieved because apart from being able to get rid of his evidence, the collector also promised to keep his identity a secret. On the other hand, Li Yao, the father of Li Wei and Venena, is still trying hard to investigate the case of their son's death. They managed to get several names strongly suspected of being the culprit. Unfortunately, Luo Feng was also included among the many names that exist. A few days later, two men named Lao Yang, the commissioner of the Extreme Martial Hall, and Lao Zhou, the president of the Extreme Martial Hall, came to meet Luo Feng. It was planned that Luo Feng would be enrolled in a special training camp to represent Jiangnan City's Extreme Martial Hall. But at that time, Luo Feng and his team were on a rescue mission in Area 23, so Lao Yang and Lao Zhou followed him there because they didn't have much time. Moreover, a man named Wang Xiping also wanted Luo Feng's position. They were even willing to pay 50 billion for a special training slot. On the other hand, Luo Feng and his team are seen trying to save one of the warrior teams surrounded by monsters. At that time, his strength was really tested. Apart from facing many monsters, he also had to face a high-level monster, the Giant Rock. It made him have to issue a 9-stage Thunder Sword level 3 attack. At the same time, Lao Yang, who had just arrived, helped him defeat all these monsters. Amazingly, Lao Yang only used one attack to finish them all. Long story short, Luo Feng suddenly felt very happy and lucky after knowing the reason for their arrival. He did not expect that he would be able to get such a rare opportunity. Moreover, Lao Yang and Lao Zhou were willing to directly pick him up. Even so, Luo Feng felt sad because his team would be short of members with his departure. It made Gao Feng and the rest of the team decide to retire. Arriving at the headquarters of Extreme Martial Hall, Lao Zhou and Lao Yang explained that the training camp was elite, the best place for warriors to increase their strength. Besides having abundant spiritual treasures, they will be trained by great warriors, and even rank 1 and 2 warriors will also become instructors there. Lao Yang explained that after Luo Feng entered the camp, it was certain that sooner or later he would soon become a war god. It was just that with the intense competition and the rigors of training, there was still the possibility that Luo Feng would fail. Apart from Luo Feng, it turned out that a man named Heng Xia was also sent as a representative of the Extreme Martial Hall, even though he was only tied up in the basic training camp. After that, they were allowed to go home and prepare themselves. Luo Feng went straight to Xu Xin to tell her that he would soon leave for the elite training camp. Hearing that, she felt very happy and encouraged him. After meeting her, Luo Feng was suddenly blocked by Wang Xiping's army. Wang Xiping, without further ado, asked Luo Feng to stay away from Xu Xin. He even threatened Luo Feng to act violently if he didn't comply. Before their fight started, Heng Xia came over to Luo Feng. He told Wang Xiping that Luo Feng was a warrior going to the elite training camp. Knowing that, Wang Xiping apologized to Luo Feng because he didn't want to get into trouble with a great warrior, let alone a prospective elite training camp disciple. Long story short, when the training day arrived, Luo Feng and Heng Xia were picked up by Lao Yang and escorted to the training camp. Lao Yang explained that the elite training camp had a rule when they got there. The higher the rank of a warrior, the more access to training resources they will be given. As for warriors who are ranked below 3 times in a row, the warrior will automatically be eliminated. After dropping Heng Xia to the basic training camp, Lao Yang took Luo Feng to meet a man named Wang, who was going to test Luo Feng's abilities. He also led Luo Feng to the test place, a virtual world, to test his worthiness. The test has 7 levels. Wang said that if he can only enter up to level 5, warrior level 1 can only enter level 6. In other words, until then, there is still no warrior who can penetrate to level 7. Because in the test, spiritual power like Luo Feng's could not be used, warriors could only rely on the physical strength of his body techniques, and the physical strength was also lowered to the lowest level. It was intended to test a warrior's ability when he had to fight in a very critical condition. Realizing that bodily techniques were the only power that could be used, Luo Feng concentrated all his thoughts and strength on improving his body techniques to reach the perfect level. In this way, he was finally able to pass the test. On the other hand, Li Yao and Venena are increasingly suspicious of Luo Feng as their son's killer, then plan to look for evidence that corroborates their allegations. Luo Feng, who had successfully passed the test, was introduced to his two new teams, a man named Shizhong and a woman named Zhao Ruo. The two of them welcomed Luo Feng's arrival. They even asked him not to hesitate if he had any questions or needed help. They also explained some important things that Luo Feng needed to know, and one of them was regarding the Black Dragon rank, which was the ranking of the strongest disciples in the elite training camp and would change every month. Without waiting long, Luo Feng tried his first practice. At that time, he was training in the virtual world and was accompanied by a female guide robot. And thanks to his hard training, his master's spiritual power has increased even more. A few days later, Luo Feng, who was attending a party, was suddenly approached by a man named William, an elite training camp disciple. He intends to challenge him to a duel, arguing that it is a form of friendly practice, when in fact, William was one of Venena's men, tasked with revealing Luo Feng's identity as a spiritual master. Even to make Luo Feng accept the offer, William deliberately provoked him by saying that the warriors of Jiangnan City didn't have any strength comparable to him. Feeling challenged, Luo Feng then agreed to the offer and even bet as much as 5 billion to make the fight more challenging. Long story short, the day came when Luo Feng would duel against William. The duel will be done virtually. Many warriors thought he could be defeated very quickly by William, a senior disciple with battle experience far above him. Elsewhere, Li Yao and Venena watched their fight through a monitor screen. They hoped that William would be able to suppress Luo Feng until he used his master's spiritual power. Unexpectedly, Luo Feng could dominate the battle with the power of his 9-stage Thunder Sword, so his strength and speed were far superior to William's. He took aback by everyone who witnessed the fight because he managed to defeat William without getting hit. Even though William couldn't reveal Luo Feng's identity as a spiritual master, Li Yao was even more suspicious of Luo Feng's behavior, which seemed very careful and calculating. Then Shizhong introduced Luo Feng to his new female teacher, Zhang Feng. She is a swordsmanship specialist, so Luo Feng can upgrade his 9-stage Thunder Sword. At her first meeting, Zhang Feng showed her sword skills and instantly made Luo Feng feel admiration for her. Unlike William, who was famous for being great at swordsmanship, she was far superior to him. After that, Zhang Feng took Luo Feng towards the gravity space. There he would do physical endurance training with the gravity method. From her explanation, Luo Feng knew that the room was formed from an extremely strong material. Even a war god wouldn't be able to leave his punches there, even if they hit the room's walls with full force, except for Hong. So Hong's first rank is not just a title. Zhang Feng showed the power between herself and Luo Feng, who was already overwhelmed by the pressure of 9 gravity alone, whereas she was able to withstand 100 gravitational pressures with great ease. Even so, she said there was still plenty of time for Luo Feng if he wanted to increase his physical endurance. She also promised to continue to spur him to become even stronger. The next day, Luo Feng, who had just woken up from sleep, suddenly received news that Jiangnan City was being attacked by a herd of monsters. Even the military could not stem their attacks, resulting in many casualties. Unfortunately, Luo Feng, who intended to join the war, was actually forbidden by Lao Yang, because according to him, Luo Feng was still inexperienced to be involved in such a big war. Not giving up, Luo Feng secretly infiltrated one of the supply planes so that he could arrive at Jiangnan City. He couldn't just stand by while his family was in danger. On the other hand, Lao Yang and the other Extreme Martial Hall members were seen heading toward the northern part of Jiangnan City, because Hydra, the leader of the monsters, appeared there. At the same time, Luo Feng managed to arrive at Jiangnan City. He quickly rushed to check the condition of the military base. How surprised he was when he met the Hydra, a monster in his dream. He faced Hydra, but unfortunately, because of that incident, his identity as a spiritual master was finally known by Li Yao and Venena, who watched him from the monitor screen. Luo Feng now received help from Lao Yang and the military and tried to freeze the Hydra. They thought it would work, but the Hydra turned out to be much stronger than they thought. Forcibly, Luo Feng planned to sacrifice himself to lead the Hydra out of the city area so that the evacuation team would have more time to save the city. The Donghua ends. The moral that can be learned is that money can't always buy anything we want because an important position as a great person requires invaluable greatness and sincerity.